welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. And today I have Mark with me. By the time that you guys hear this, it will be Thursday or Friday, depending on when you listen to this. And I don't know if you know this, but as part of cerebral palsy, we, those of us with cerebral palsy, have experience with open heart surgeries when we're young. And the reason why I bring that up is because the person I'm interviewing today, Mark, has had so many experiences on death's door like I have, and it's not even funny. So you might hear some experiences of me, more experiences of him, less of me, but I just wanted to bring that up, that when I was young, I had open heart surgery, saved my heart, and my heart, even though it's strong now, I still have to be careful with it. So enough of me rambling. I'm going to let Mr. Mark take it away.
Hi, everybody, and hi, Wynn. Thanks for having me. So, do you want me to give you the Reader's Digest version of the story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. So, born in 1978 with to two first-time 24-year-old parents, which I always bring up because as a parent myself now, I have a new appreciation for how stressful it must have been for them being A, young, and B, not having any parental experience, and C, that it's 1978. And because of that, the technology was not, as good as it is today. So they didn't have any warning. Everything looked fine in all the pre-testing, and everything was supposed to be okay. And then I was born and turned blue within a few minutes, and the doctors diagnosed a heart problem that needed surgery and that could not be done where I was born. So I was airlifted to a hospital 3 hours away, and Mom and Dad had to stay where Mom delivered because she had to recover. So you can imagine, they basically watched their brand new baby flown away on a helicopter, having no idea if they were going to see him alive or not ever again.
Yep.
Yeah. So, obviously that went well. I'm still here talking to you. But the doctors said, look, we fixed what was the first problem, which was a problem with the aortic valve, one of the main valves in the heart. So it was closed. So they just cut a hole in it. And they said, we'll probably have to address this again down the road, but for now, this will serve as, it'll keep him alive for now, and we'll look at it again later. So I had another surgery when I was a year old. The valve was still okay. And then I actually did a lot better than they thought I would for a long time. I was really lucky because they said he'll need surgery again when he starts school, and he'll probably have a few more after that, and assuming he lives that long. And I didn't. I lived a relatively normal life. I certainly was always on medication, and I'm very small because of the illness that I had when I was young, and lots of little issues, but overall not that big a deal. And then finally at 23, I was going to university and out on my own, and over the course of about 4 or 5 months, my condition just slowly deteriorated. So I lost a lot of weight. I was getting more and more short of breath. I was getting more and more tired. And I came home at the end of the school year, and when my mom saw me, she hadn't seen me in a few months, she, just kind of lost it. Her jaw dropped, and her mouth fell open, and she said, oh, my gosh, you look horrible. What's going on? And I hadn't really been paying attention, I guess maybe because I was a 23-year-old guy, and we're, A, pretty stubborn, and B, not too concerned about...
Let's be honest here.
That's right. Yeah, pretty stubborn and not terribly concerned about what we weigh. So I wasn't really paying attention, but I had lost about a third of my body weight in 3 months. So I mean, I'm not a big guy. I weigh about 120 to 125 pounds, depending on the day right now, and I was down to 80 pounds. So Mom knew that, something was seriously wrong. She took me to see my doctor, and he sent me to see a heart specialist a few hours away. And long story short, he admitted me to hospital for a month. They ran every test I've ever had done, and ones I'd never heard of before. And at the end of all of that, they said, well, you have two choices. We can try to put you on a transplant list. You need a heart and both lungs. Or you can go home and try and survive for however long you can without it, but we don't think that's going to be very long. And I said, well, how long do you think I have? And he said, well, if you don't get a transplant, I would give you 18 months at the most. So,
of course, doctors are also positive.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Most doctors are also positive. Not,
no. Yeah, well, I mean, and I was pretty frustrated then, but now I understand that he's trying to help me understand how serious this was, right? So, anyway, obviously I said, well, I want a transplant. Like, I'm not going home to die, so do whatever you have to do. But he explained that transplants, especially lung transplants, were quite rare. Heart-lung transplants even more so. The year before the year that I was diagnosed, I think they did one or maybe even none in all of Canada. And then the year I had mine, I was one of only like 2 or 3 people that had them done. So the odds of finding a donor, the odds of doing the transplant were pretty slim. And the fact that I'm small made it even harder because the donors typically statistically donors are young guys who ride motorcycles without helmets. That's statistically where the majority of them come from. So they're, 20-something-year-old guys who weigh, 200 pounds, and their lungs are not going to fit in the body of a 100-pound guy. So he said, I don't think they'll find organs for you, but if you want us to put you on the list, we will. And so I was lucky enough to get on the list, but even then, lungs last about 6 hours between the time they're taken from the donor till they're put in the recipient. So there was no time to waste. And so we had to move to the city where the transplant center was. We had a couple of options, but Toronto is where we ended up going. So that's, to give you an idea, it's about 900 miles from where I live. So my dad and I basically moved. We packed up our things. We left my mom and my 3 brothers at home. And we moved to Toronto to wait for a transplant, not knowing whether we'd be waiting for 2 weeks or 2 years. And at the end, I waited about 10 months total. 6 of those months I spent in the hospital. The last 6 months I was so sick that they wanted to basically keep an eye on me 24 hours a day. And I was, it was touch and go. I was on death's door for at least a couple of months of that time, but I got lucky. I got lucky. So on September the 6th, I guess, 2002, so 15 years ago, a couple of weeks ago, my nurse came to the door of my hospital room and said, there's a call for you at the nurse's station. And anybody that's been in the hospital for any amount of time knows that you have a phone beside your bed. You don't get calls at the nurse's station. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Right? And so I go down into the nurse's station, and they're all kind of gathered around the phone, like, waiting to find out what I'm, going to be told. And this stranger on the other end of the line says, Mr. Black, I think we have a set of heart and lungs for you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, exactly. That was followed by a long, awkward pause because I had no idea what to say to that. You have like a year to get ready for this thing, and then when it finally happens, it's like, how do I respond to that? I think I said thank you. I hope I did. I don't really remember.
We hope.
We hope so. So my mom was the one staying with me in Toronto at that point, and I called her. She came to the hospital. We waited around for about 6 or 7 more hours for the surgeons to be ready and for the organs to be retrieved. And I went into surgery at like 6 in the morning. and was in surgery for about 7 or 8 hours. I was in the ICU for about 5 days, of which I remember maybe 20 minutes because I was on such crazy medication that I don't remember much of that at all.
Yeah.
And the morphine's really good.
Let's face back to the hospital medications. Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they said, look, be prepared for a 2 or 3 month recovery in hospital before you can go home. And I was lucky that everything just kind of went really smoothly. I got out 16 days after the transplant, and since then ran 4 marathons and met and married my wife, and we have 3 healthy kids together, and so it's like a totally different world from what it was 15 years ago. So that's the story in a nutshell. And now I kind of travel around and speak to people and try and encourage them to overcome whatever it is they're going through in their life. So now I'm a speaker.
I have a question for you, because I have a dear friend who is actually an Olympian, a retired Olympian, and he on his Olympic journey he required a liver transplant, and then he went back to the Olympics. He got diagnosed with a failing liver in 1995, and then went to compete in Nagano in 1998, and then came back from his liver transplant, won a bronze medal in the 2002 Olympics.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I'm about to bring him on the podcast as well. But as part of his journey, and his name is Chris Krug, you guys, you want to Google.
I've heard of Chris. Yeah, I haven't gotten to meet him yet, but I've heard all about him.
He has a fascinating story, and he's a personal friend of mine, so a fan of mine. Thank you very much. So he has a fascinating story along with you, Mark. But part of Chris's journey is he has to take anti-rejection drugs every single day because, of course, he doesn't want the liver to reject. And so is that part of your journey too, or is that just part of the liver transplant too?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely part of my journey.
Okay.
The lungs are the most fragile, I guess, or the most susceptible to issues of all the organs, basically because they're exposed to the world, right? Because you breathe air into them from the outside, so everything else is kind of protected in your body. But so they don't. With some, I've heard of some recipients, like heart and kidney in particular, that are sometimes able to get completely off the drugs. Most people aren't, and certainly I'm not. I've always said to the doctors, if nothing is broken, then we're not going to fix it. So as long as I'm doing well and I'm not having major side effects, then why in the world would we change anything?
I love it. I might steal that line from you the next time I go to the doctor, because I'm surprised when I was younger that they didn't have to give me a heart transplant because of my heart was cerebral palsy. I think I had the same. I think I had one of my aortas opened, and they had to close it to Mark. I can't remember because I was so young, but I still have the scar to prove it. So, okay. Other than people should donate organs big time, what would be your best advice for a person on the transplant list who's lucky enough to have an iPhone and listening to this podcast right now, and they're waiting for a transplant what would be your best advice, or any disabled person at that? What would be your best advice?
Oh, great question. I think it's your biggest job is to remain hopeful, is to find a way to be positive in a difficult situation, and to believe that whatever the statistics are telling you, that you can still survive. You know, when I met with the head of the transplant team at this transplant center, it was me and my mom and my dad we were all there, and he went through, and I'm sure, you know, a lot of your listeners, and I'm sure you can relate to this, he does what the doctor does, right? Which is, here's all the risks, here's all of the like 25 million things that could possibly go wrong before, during, and after the surgery. Here's all of the things that the medications can do to your body. Here's all the possible side effects. And all of that is on top of the fact that here are the odds that you're going to actually get a transplant, which are almost zero. So by the time you're done this meeting, you feel like, well, I'm dead, right? Like there's no way this is going to happen. And even if it does, there's no way it's going to have a good outcome. Like there's so many possible things that can go wrong. So, you know, your job, and I was able to do this because I had amazing support around me because of my faith and a lot of different things. So you have to plug into whatever resources you have to help you to do this, but you have to find that sliver of positivity or that sliver of hope in all of that bad news and say, this is what I'm hanging on to. This is what right? Like, okay, if they tell me that 85% of the people that are listed don't get a transplant, then it's not that bad. It depends on your situation, but it's certainly not that bad for most people. But whatever that number is, well, okay, I'm going to be the 15%, right? Like I'm going to be the one person that it works for. I'm going to be the success story. I'm going to be because if you believe it's the opposite, then you just don't have hope, right? So, I really believe that your attitude and your disposition about things makes a big difference. I believe it's part of the reason why I recover quickly. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, I kind of believe too, like, what's the worst that can happen? That you stay positive and you believe that it's going to happen and it doesn't and it doesn't work out. Well, at least the time you spent waiting was spent being hopeful and finding joy in difficult situations rather than, you know, being depressed and sad and hopeless. So it's a good thing no matter how, you know, no matter what the result is, it's still a good strategy.
And I was just going to say, if you can go into any surgery, especially a transplant, healthy and strong enough, you can recover quickly.
Oh, there's no question. And you know, it's interesting. As a part of this program is, because they recognize that, the team recognizes that they make everybody do exercise every week, even these people who are carrying oxygen tanks so they can, you know, barely breathe, but they have to do whatever they're able to do, you know, lifting a little bit of weight and walking on the treadmill for a few minutes for exactly that reason. And it was funny because I had a heart problem. They considered that dangerous. And so they said, no, we don't want you to do that because, you know, your heart rhythm could go crazy or something could happen. So they wouldn't let me do it. They wouldn't let me go to the gym every day. So I said, well, that's fine. I'll just do it in my room. So it was a big joke on the floor of the hospital when I was living there for 6 months. The nurses would be like, oh, Mark's doing his laps again. And I would get up every morning and I would walk laps around because I wasn't allowed outside. I would walk laps around the hospital floor and I would, you know, pick up a book or pick up a water bottle or anything to try and maintain a little bit of muscle because, as you say, you know, when the stronger you are going in, the better chance you have to recover quickly.
And so before I let you go, Mark, I want you to ask me a couple of questions.
To ask you a couple of questions. Okay. What's the biggest challenge for you living with CP?
Oh, the biggest challenge with CP is, I would have to say, my bad back. My bad back has slowed me since 2006, and I lost my capability to walk, and this has something to do with organ donation to please, 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 please donate blood. Thank you very much, everyone, because I am a blood donor recipient. I needed a blood transfusion in 2006 as part of my back surgery. And that's the first time today I've admitted that I'm a blood donor recipient. So I don't know who the kind person was to donate blood that matched my blood, but please, 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 if you can't donate an organ and you, the only living organ I know of that can be donated is a kidney, but please, 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 please donate blood, and you can go to your local blood center in Canada or in the U.S. and just donate blood. And if you have a friend that needs a kidney, please consider yourself a match. Please go get tested, because we all need help. We all need blood transfusions. We all need kidney transfusions. And those of us who are lucky to get on the lung transfusion, transplant list need those too. So if you are dealing with a loved one, I hate to be morbid here, who's dying, please consider to put them on the transplant list. I know, as a personal fact, with meningitis, with spinal meningitis, you can't get on the transplant list, because when I lost my mom, my biological mom, we tried to put her on the transplant list, but because she died of meningitis, they said no way.
Yeah. No, you're right. Thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. We certainly. I always tell people, look, we don't want your organs until you're done with them, right? And I don't wish anything bad on you. But when you're done with them, they're just gonna, they're gonna turn to dirt in the ground. So don't waste them. Give them to somebody who can use them.
Yeah, give them to someone that needs them. And so, do you have any other questions for me?
Let's see. What has living with CP taught you, or how has it made you a better person, maybe?
It's made me a better person to love life even more. I love life even more now since I lost my mom than I did previously. When I lost my capability to walk, I didn't love life, but now I do. Now I do. My second stop and smell the roses moment taught me to do stuff you really, really love and enjoy every moment.
Good for you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it teaches when you face what might be the end of your life, you start to appreciate what you have, right?
Yep. Exactly. And so if people are so inclined to donate blood, and if people are so inclined to donate organs, I presume they can go to the organ registry .ca. It's not .com, you guys. It's .ca, or you can say most driver's license places, most state ID places say, do you want to be an organ donor, and they will put you on the list. So please, 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 the next time you get your driver's license renewed, also those of you that had state IDs in Canada or the U.S., please, please, please say, yes, I want to be an organ donor, and please go donate blood, and because right now we actually need people to donate blood because of the shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I think this is a perfect way to say, go please donate blood because of the mass shooting that happened on Sunday in Las Vegas, Nevada. They're asking people to donate blood. So please contact your local blood center and please sign up to be an organ donor. I can't tell you how important that is, and I know that Mark will repeat that at the end of the interview.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's an important thing to do, and I always remind people too that talking, signing your driver's license, or in most provinces in Canada now it's your Medicare card. That's great, but the best thing to do is still talk to your family, because at least here the way it works is if something were to ever happen, it's your next of kin, the person who's going to make all of your decisions for you because you're not able to anymore. And they make the decision about whether you're a donor or not. And so you can have, you can have registered on the list and everything, but if they say no, then it's no. So I always tell people, make sure that you talk about it with your family. And I know that it's not like the most comfortable conversation in the world, but it's important. And, one person can save almost a dozen lives, and then they can improve the quality of life for many, many other people with tissue and bone and all the other stuff. So, one person can have a major, major impact on a lot of other people by being a donor. So it's a really important thing.
Well, it's really an important thing, and I just want you guys, and I will bring Chris on the podcast and make him share his story. And if you guys want to Google Chris's story, go ahead by all means. They, because of his Olympic achievement, the two families got to meet, and that's very rare also. You never, the donor never gets to meet the donor's family, but because of his Olympic achievement, the donor family got to meet his family and meet him. And so people do this all the time, but they never get to meet the donor family. I probably won't get to meet my blood donor, which is unfortunate because we want to give donors a hug. Blood, lung, heart, we want to give all donors a hug just to, or at least the families a hug, just to say thank you. So in Chris's case, that got to happen, and he was able to give the donor family a hug, but in most cases that doesn't happen. And so I appreciate Mark's time this morning. I know it's a little bit of a time difference, and I know he spent a little bit of money calling into a podcast, but I appreciate his time this morning, and I appreciate him sharing his amazing story, and I hopefully hope you guys have a good day, and let's keep this podcast rocking and rolling. This podcast has been sponsored by Grace by Blitz. Grace by Blitz is a clothing line out of California, and they're giving you 20% off when you type in the code Extra Butterflies. And as I said, please, 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 please donate what you can. Donate organs. Sign up to be an organ donor. And please, 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 please call your local blood donation center and donate a point of blood, because that's really important in emergency cases. And please tell your next of kin that you want to be an organ donor. And please just Google Chris's story and sign up to be organ donor ambassador. I am actually organ donor ambassador. I'm actually a blood transfusion ambassador too. I've been working with the Chris Krug Foundation since 2002. 2002 I've been working with the Chris Krug Foundation, and so please do all you can to help those in need. Thanks to you guys.